Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So in this AFK journey video, we're going to talk about a PSA for Hugin before you commit your resources into him. So I won't be doing a push in for Hugin unfortunately because I have something on later. So I will be spending a little bit of time to do the pulls, probably record some Ravage round videos and then upload the respective Hugin videos in the next few days. So stay tuned for the PvP, PvE as well as the final verdict videos. Now for Hugin's kit itself, let's run through some mechanics which people mentioned yesterday in my two videos, as well as a few mechanics that you guys might be interested in. So first of all, one thing which I didn't mention explicitly but is inside the description and a lot of people keep on mentioning is that mechanized bond right here is a one tile buff behind Hugin. So if the ally doesn't stay behind on the mechanized Zeeebo, the ally won't be able to get the buff. So this means that you want units that, number one, either stays on the spot to get the buff permanently like OD right here, or units which just gets the buff by jumping in and out. Units like Vala, units like Merrily, units like Dino for this buff specifically. So this brings me to another question which people ask a lot. Is Hara going to be a good partner to Hugin? The answer is no. So I'll use this replay to talk about it. Okay, so right here, as you guys can see, at the start of battle, the Zeeebo is activated, but once Hara actually moves out of the Zeeebo, he no longer gets the buff and the Zeeebo goes offline. So now you get the ultimate active on Hara for the shielding as well as the attack buff from our Hugin's ultimate. But once Hara actually goes off the feast mode, Hara will actually eat Hugin right here. And this is where Hara as well as Hugin, they are not good partners because Hugin is a unit that has a lot of active buffs which requires him to be on a battlefield. So first of all, you don't get a buff on mechanized bond, and second of all, Hara has the potential to eat up Hugin, which reduces the overall buffing efficiency, which is why you kind of don't want to run Hugin and Hara together in most cases, right? There could be a possibility that you might be able to form a team such that you can maximize your damage with Hara while getting the best buff duration with Hugin, but in general, it's not the most recommended combination that you guys want, okay? So that's number one, Hara and Hugin. I think a lot of people mentioned this. So another interesting mechanic is that this buff actually also benefits units that can actually exit the battlefield. So right here, as you guys can see, so we have Damien, we have Hugin right here. Okay, so right now the Zeeebo is offline, as you guys can see. So no buff, and then when Hugin moves, he activates for a little bit, and then when he uses the ultimate, he bounces up Damien off the battlefield itself. So the cut is no longer within this sphere, and that's why we are not getting the buff. So later on, right, hopefully, if I remember correctly, Damien will summon the cut all the way behind our Hugin over here. I think the cut will actually move forward a little bit. Can't remember exactly. I think I might be able to just manually control the ultimate. So I think for this one, we'll just run through a battle. Okay, so right here, we're going to put Damien. And then we're going to put Joey in the mix for this one. Yeah. So this will actually speed up the process. Okay, so we'll go at one time. So at the start of battle, the Zeeebo is active. We get the attack buff, as you guys can see right here. And then the buff disappears, right? So then we lose the attack buff itself. Okay, for a little bit. Okay, then he casts the ultimate right here. As you guys can see, we get the buff on Damien once again. So this Zeeebo, right, even if Hugin is moved, will remain on the spot. And what this means is that, first of all, the units needs to be able to go into this spot in order to get the buff, and they need to be able to camp there. So right here, we're going to put the cut into that circle to get the buff. Okay, so right here, when the unit steps into the circle, the cut actually gets the attack buff. So ideally, like I mentioned earlier, you want units which actually stays on the spot, or units that are able to enter the Zeeebo for the maximum buff duration. And one interesting mechanic is that the Hugin will actually return to this spot because his anvil is all the way here because of his ultimate as well as the third skill itself, right? Because he needs to be in the front of the Zeeebo and he has the anvil here, so he has to go back to this no matter what. And combine that with his 20 attack range, Hugin is a unit that despite being able to be displaced by displacement skill, will always go back to the same spot. So this is one more mechanics that you guys might want to know. Okay, so this is for the mechanic side. So the end view side is from the ultimate right here, the very first line. So this is for those of you guys who are into the line by line description. He will set his end view, which is that thing in the middle, right? And then he will set this mechanical cogs behind him, and then the units will be able to get the buff if they enter the sigil itself. And then he will always go back to the end view no matter where he gets shifted by the boss. So that is the two mechanics that you guys might want to know. And this buff from Hugin is a temporary buff, which means that Hugin's buff will be able to benefit Dino over here. And in fact, Hugin's one of the best partner to Dino because Hugin has the charm ability to immediately do an attack boost, right? And on top of that, at the start of battle, our Dino will be behind him, although Dino will be teleporting around a lot. But Dino is one of those rare units that can actually teleport back into the sigil itself. And on top of that, in most cases, Dino is able to actually do a lot of damage, which means that Hugin's ultimate right here will be most of the time buffing Dino. So without further ado, I think we're gonna do this team over here to showcase Dino's power. Okay, so this one we'll do manual. So let's start. So we'll do manual for this one. So as you guys can see, we have 3 buffs immediately because number 1, we have 1 buff from Hugin. Number 2, we have 1 buff from Smokey. So right here, we're gonna cast the ultimate. Okay, so this ultimate will most likely go on Dino because Dino usually deals the most damage for the highest accumulative damage side of things. So there's no unit here, and then we're gonna continue buffing. Okay, put Dino. Okay, so first of all, we can't actually control Dino's teleporting location, so that is one of a bummer in terms of Dino and Hugin combo. But in most cases, Hugin's shield will most likely land on Dino because number 1, the ultimate will go on the highest damage unit, and then secondly, Dino's a pretty frail unit, so he takes quite a bit of damage to usually become more of the weaker one in case he's not flying in the air itself. So Hugin's a really good partner to Dino because of all the temporary buff. But do take note that Dino's EX weapon skill requires you to get 3 buffs from 3 different sources. So even though Hugin has multiple buffs, Hugin will only consider as 1 stack on Dino because he's only 1 unit. So you need 2 other sources. So 1 from Smokey as well as 1 from Verdant spell in this case. Okay, so that's for the Dino thing. So another thing with regards to Hugin's kit is the control immunity. So I'll use this replay to showcase it. So right here, I think this is it. Let me just check my formation. Okay, yeah, I'll use this. So this will showcase OD's positioning as well as the control immunity side. So the EX weapon skill of Hugin is able to grant control immunity to your ally. But if the ally is in mid-air, for example, lifted by the boss like Foresto. Okay, so hold on. So let me do a quick reset and then showcase the mechanics. So right here, let's run through the replay once again. Okay. So this one, right here later on, as you guys remember, Olsen will actually lift up Foresto. And then at that moment, Foresto will be the lowest HP unit. And then all of a sudden, when the shield lands on Foresto, he gets the control immunity. So this is because of the EX weapon. And what this means is that control immunity will set in immediately once the shield lands on the ally, which will highly likely cancel the control effect itself, which is quite insane considering the fact that you can actually put Hugin on insta ultimate tile to actually throw out the shield midway and then cancel out the sleep from Tasi, for example, or maybe cancel out control effects from Iron Armors or other controllers in the meta right now. And on top of that, as you guys can see right here, because units like OD with maximum attack range usually stays on the spot, they will be able to fully benefit from the mechanized bond from Hugin right here. So as much as I think in most cases this is gonna be really challenging because number 1, the unit can be repositioned like this. So when OD is repositioned, he will be outside of the mechanized bond. But at the same time, if you consider the fact that there are a lot of bosses where they don't move your units, you can just put units like Smokey, units like Ludovic, units like OD, or units with really long attack range, or just position Hugin a little bit forward so that the unit will be able to stand on a spot to attack the boss to maximize the buff from mechanized bond right here. So these are a few ways, although if you look at it, it might be a little bit challenging because like some of the more popular units, like for example Lily May, right? It's a 3 attack range and she usually repositions herself to hit the boss. Sonia's a pretty used common unit right now, and she's a melee unit that runs forward, so she don't actually benefit from the buff itself. So that's some of the bummers for Hugin, but there are still units that you can combine Hugin with. So units like, for example, Odie right here, as you guys can see, or just let the boss throw the unit back into the sigil like the Fresto just now to get the buff itself. Okay, so that's pretty much it in terms of the mechanics side. And with regards to Hugin's impression itself, I think this is a unit which could be a little bit challenging for some accounts because you just don't have the unit pairing or team composition to fully abuse it. And obviously Hugin is a character that's pretty position dependent because his position will be where he stays throughout the battle, because that's where he put his anvil and then he'll move back to the spot. So placing your Hugin in the right position is actually really crucial in order to understand the maximum effect of Hugin itself. So that's one thing to take note of. And on top of that, I think Hugin does go well with some of the existing units like Odie and Dino in general, but not so much with a lot of the meta units like Sonia as well as Lily May. So if that's something of your concern, right, do just hold on for a little bit, wait for even more testing to see whether or not there are other ways to maximize Hugin's ability before committing your resources to him. So stay tuned for my PvE videos, stay tuned for my PvP videos, and that's it for this video. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys!